The first time I stood before the altar, I felt nothing. I expected fear, cold sweat, a deep, clawing dread. But instead, I was empty, numb in a way that felt like my body had already begun to decay, like I wasn't there anymore. Maybe that's why I didn't resist when the ritual began. Maybe that's why I let them do it. Father Dane stood behind me, his breath hot against my ear as he whispered the words I had been forced to memorize. The others knelt in a circle, their hands clasped, their faces slack with reverence. The air was thick with rot, with the iron scent of blood smeared across the stone altar. I lowered my hands onto the slab. It was wet. "Do you accept him?" Father Dane asked, voice deep, trembling. I hesitated, only for a moment. "Yes." A sound slithered through the air, a scraping, a sighing, something shifting just beneath the skin of reality. I couldn't see it yet, but I could feel it, pressing in from all sides, curling against my bones. The others began to chant. Their voices rose and fell in waves, a pulse of devotion, a heartbeat of something much older than any of us, something hungry. Father Dane pressed a knife into my hand. "Give yourself." My fingers tightened around the hilt. The blade was jagged, uneven, made for tearing, not cutting. My pulse pounded in my ears as I lifted it, dragging the tip across my palm. Flesh split, slow and deep, and warmth spilled down my wrist, dripping onto the stone. The chanting grew frantic. The air thickened, buzzing, vibrating with something unseen. And then I felt it, a pressure against my spine, cold and jagged, curling into my ribs like an infestation. My breath hitched. It crawled deeper, tendrils winding through muscle, threading into my veins. I gasped, but the sound wasn't mine. It came from somewhere inside me, a wet, sucking inhale that rattled my chest. My body jerked, my fingers convulsed, the knife slipping from my grasp. I tried to move, but I was locked in place, paralyzed. My ribs cracked as something inside me made room for itself. I wanted to scream. I couldn't. The world tilted, blurred. The faces of the others twisted, their eyes wide with awe, with terror, with longing. I felt them reaching for me, their hands shaking, their mouths opening and closing as they whispered his name. I tried to turn away, but my body wasn't mine anymore. My limbs moved, but I wasn't the one moving them. I was trapped, locked inside my own mind, forced to watch as my fingers twitched, curling into claws. My head snapped up in an unnatural, jerking motion. A voice crawled up my throat, dry and ancient. "I am here!" The others screamed, some in ecstasy, some in horror. One of them tried to run, but my new body was faster. My hands shot out, catching his wrist. His flesh withered beneath my grip, skin shriveling, bones snapping like brittle twigs. He crumpled, his eyes bulging, mouth frothing as the life was squeezed from him. I wanted to look away. I wanted to wake up, but I couldn't. The thing inside me laughed, and my ribs ached from the force of it. It tilted my head back, breathing deep, savoring the scent of blood and sweat and terror. More. My legs carried me forward, slow, deliberate. The others knelt, pressing their foreheads to the floor, whispering frantic prayers. They had wanted this. They had begged for this. And now they were afraid. The thing inside me relished it. It stretched my fingers, testing them, dragging its nails down my arms, peeling away layers of flesh just to feel the pain of it, just to delight in the sensation of ruin. The body was merely a vessel, a plaything, a temporary home. It didn't matter if it broke. My mind recoiled, thrashing against the prison of my own flesh. But the more I fought, the deeper it rooted itself, sinking its teeth into my thoughts, its claws into my soul. It wanted to stay, and I was fading. I could feel it, my edges dissolving, my consciousness unraveling like frayed thread, my memory slipping away piece by piece, my name, my voice, myself. I was being consumed. Please, I begged. I didn't know if I spoke aloud or if I just thought it. It didn't matter. The thing inside me grinned. There is no I anymore. And then it let go. Just for a moment, I collapsed, gasping, my hands scraping against the blood-slick stone. My vision swam. My body was mine again, weak, trembling, hollowed out. But I could still feel it, lingering just beneath the surface, waiting, watching. The others approached, cautious, reverent. Their eyes shone with something sick and holy. Father Dane knelt before me, pressing his forehead to the ground. You have been chosen. I wanted to tell them it was a mistake, that I wasn't me anymore, that I could still feel it writhing inside me, whispering its hunger into my thoughts. But my lips wouldn't move. My voice was gone. I stared at my hands. They weren't mine anymore. Then slowly, they moved. I didn't tell them to. A whisper curled through my thoughts, cold and endless, wrapping around my mind like vines around a dying tree. You will never be alone again. Something inside me chuckled, and I realized with horror that it had already begun to forget what it was like to be me.